What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Hawk Talk on Melrose. Tyler and I decided to hop on the mic just to kind of go over this season for Iowa women. I think it's right to kind of reflect back on this great year and what that team meant to all of us. I don't really know how well this episode will do, with views and stuff like that, but we just felt like it was the right thing to do because they changed us in terms of, wanting to watch women's basketball. And it was such a fun year, and it's obviously over now. And we just felt like, let's get on the mic a little bit and kind of reflect on this year. So that is what we're going to do. This is going to be a pretty short episode. We're aiming for about 20 minutes. So we're going to try to do that and then be done with it. So what's going on, Tyler? How's your Monday? We're recording this a day after the game. So, for everyone listening out there, but how's your Monday going? How are you doing?
It's going pretty good, see. Yeah, like you said, it's been kind of about 24 hours now since the game, and you've had a little time to reflect on not only the game but the season. And I guess where I would start is just a quick overview of the season as a whole. And more so like what you just mentioned, taking like a step back and like looking at it from like a 30,000-foot view. I think you're exactly right. You know, the one thing I will say that if any of it, if anything that, Caitlin Clark has done, it's get people to watch women's basketball. And I think that is like the most impressive thing that, I could say about a women's basketball player, because I'll be honest, up until the last 2 years, I have not watched like a women's basketball game. Doesn't matter if it's college, doesn't matter if it's the WNBA. And the amount of Iowa women's basketball that I've watched these last 2 years, you have too. We've watched almost every single game
Yeah.
in its entirety, not only like for a quarter or for a half, but literally full games and staying up late watching it. Doesn't matter the time. I just think that's like the most impressive thing. And will that continue when she's gone? Definitely not to the degree that I think when she was here and when this team was here these last couple of years, because these two teams were special, and it's hard to do what they did. So, but I definitely will be following her along in the WNBA. I'm sure she'll get selected by the Indiana Fever 1 overall, and if they ever are on TV, I'll be definitely tuning in. And I'll still watch a lot of the Iowa women's basketball games, when I'm able to, and when they're on. But yeah, that's the way I take of it, or that's what I take of it. It's like to get her to for her to get me to sit down and watch her on TV for as many games as I did is pretty incredible.
I think this year too, I think overall it was more special year than last year. And obviously last year's team was really special as well, making it to the national championship game, getting past South Carolina on the Final Four when we were, I think, 11.5 point underdog. Everybody counted us out that game. We won that game. But I think this year was more special because it's so hard to replicate such a successful season last year. And for me, like, I had my doubts. I just thought, okay, we lose Monica. We don't really get anyone down low. Will we be able to replicate last year with just the popularity that Iowa Women's has, the spotlight, the media coverage, all the celebrities, like everything? And it's like, can we get to the national championship or the Final Four again? And then not only that, but you had all the records and you had the distractions there, and
Yeah.
you had where every team that was playing you, that game was circled for them. That was a game that they wanted, right? You were kind of the victim. They wanted to beat you. And so to go throughout the year, navigate throughout the year, have a pretty successful regular season. You had a couple, bumps down the road, but for the most part, very successful regular season. Big Ten tournament, you obviously win that. You came back from, the Nebraska game in the national champion or in the conference championship, where we were down by like 7 points with 2.5 minutes left. You win that. And then to get to the Final Four in the national championship in the toughest region, where you had to play a Colorado team in the Sweet 16 that you played last year, so they're familiar with you. And then you play LSU, the defending national champion, in the Elite Eight, and then you have to play UConn, a really good team with a GOAT head coach in the Final Four. So it was just a very tough stretch to get to the national championship. We thought before the NCAA tournament that it was going to be very tough for Iowa to go all the way. And then we saw the region and we're like, oh boy, this is going to be very tough. And to get there, and for me, like getting to the Final Four, that was just house money at that point. And getting to the national championship game for sure. Like I knew going in yesterday, it was going to be really tough. And the chances of us winning was pretty low, but just getting there is an incredible accomplishment. And I know it sucks 2 years in a row of not winning it, going and not winning it. Your hope is at least one of the 2 years you win it all. But for this team to go back-to-back years is very incredible. And not just Caitlin Clark, but, you know, Gabbie Marshall, Kate Martin, what they've meant to the women's basketball program and to elevate this program to new heights. Because I think you're right. You know, like, I think next year might be kind of a rough year in a way, but I think for the future, I mean, you see some of the players that we're getting, I think it's only going to just make us and make this Iowa women's basketball program that much more. And it's going to be fun as the years go on. I don't think it's going to be quite like this. We're never going to see a Caitlin Clark again, but I think we're going to be consistent. And I think we're going to be decently good. And for everybody that thinks we're going to just automatically go back to being bad, I'm just going to tell you that before Caitlin Clark, Lisa Bluter had a really good program. So it's not like this team is just going to go from being where it's at to just all of a sudden horrible. Yes, I do think they're going to take a step down a little bit, but I still think, though, that the future is bright for this basketball program.
Yeah, I mean, Lisa Bluter's had Players of the Year before Caitlin Clark, too, and recent. So, you know, she's a really good head coach. I think she, you know, just the way she builds her program. I mean, you see all the clips on Twitter about just kind of how, like, it's such a family environment. I think that's super attractive for, like, players because, you know, when you go to a team, it's like that's kind of your new home, right? And so she makes everyone kind of feel at home, and that every team or every player 1 through 15, you know, matters. So I think that's really sustainable. She's built a really awesome culture, and man, to go, like you said, to go to 2 national championships in a row, like for Iowa, like I take a step back and I'm like, even as an Iowa fan, I'm like, wow, that's hard to do.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, we're never probably going to see that ever in our lives again, just because getting there is so tough. 2 years in a row, some of the best years.
Well, I think, and you said it best. You're like, because we've been texting during the games up until that point throughout the tournament, basically every game. And you had texted kind of the beginning of the South Carolina game. You're like, I'm going to wait to text during timeouts and like the end of quarters or halftime because I just want to sit here and just enjoy the ride, no matter win or lose. Just really enjoy it for what it is. Yeah. So, and that's exactly what we did for that last game. And yeah, it was a tough loss. Because we had moments where, man, you start off and you feel like, man, here we go. We're going to win this thing. And that second quarter kind of hit us in a brutal way. And we got down by like 4 or 5 going into half. And, you know, it was just and then third quarter, they kind of came out and blitzed us early. And it was just hard to climb back into it after that. And when you have a team like South Carolina that's bigger, faster, stronger, taller, and now can shoot, unlike last year, that was kind of the difference in the reason that they had beat us this year. So,
and the bench points, I think they had 37 bench points. We had 0. So you're not going to win with that.
Well, I also looked this up, Collin. Our bigs, so Stolke and O'Grady, the 2 bigs that played, they had 5 rebounds in the game.
Yeah, it's not good.
That's
not good.
That against South Carolina is going to get you beat 9 out of 10 times for sure.
I'm going to take a step back to before what you brought up with how I texted you about, I'm going to soak this all and I'm not going to text. I'm not going to lie. Like yesterday morning, waking up, like I was excited for this game. It was like national championship day, but at the same time for me, I was a little, just with the emotions of like, man, this is it. This is the last. This is the last game. And I get it. The Friday night could have been the last day. Last Monday could have been the last day. 2 weeks. But we also were confident that we would keep advancing, right? Like this was it. Win or lose, it's done. And the era of Caitlin Clark. And once again, I want to include Gabbie Marshall and Kate Martin because they've brought so much to this program.
Yeah.
Even them, like that era is over. And
Yeah.
the excitement is kind of over. It's going to be very interesting to see how we navigate post Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
I think Iowa fans will 100% keep supporting. I just don't think it's going to be quite like what it has been.
Yep.
And obviously, you're not going to get the media spotlight. You're not going to get the everybody talking about you. All that's going to be done, obviously, now that Caitlin Clark's gone. But yeah, like for me though, yeah, just yesterday waking up, just knowing like these 2 years of the spotlight is on you and how fun the ride was. It's over after today. And I think I told you this last night when we were talking. Like for me, I wasn't really that sad that we lost yesterday because I think once again making the natty is awesome. Obviously, I want to win, but for me, I was way more sad that it's just over with. Like last year, I knew once we lost to LSU, yes, it sucked, but it's like, well, we get Caitlin Clark for one more year. And at that time, we thought maybe 2 more years, right? Because we didn't know if she would come back. So, but we get her for at least one more year. We get Kate Martin for at least one more year. We get Gabbie Marshall at least one more year. And so that what was nice about last year. Yes, we lose Monica, but we knew some of these girls were coming back, and that was awesome. This year, it kind of sucks because it's like they're all leaving, and it's almost kind of like starting from scratch over again. Even though, we bring back some players, but it's definitely going to be a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. You love to keep winning and we did that throughout the tournament and it was always just, 40 more minutes, 40 more minutes. And then, yeah, you look at it and you go, oh man, this is the championship game. There is no more games after this for Caitlin Clark. As we know, she's going off to the WNBA to bigger and better things. So it was this like sense of just bittersweet because the ride was so amazing. Bigger than anybody could have ever imagined. But definitely bitter at the end because it's like, damn, for us Iowa fans, Iowa, it doesn't matter women's or men's basketball, like it's so fun to watch, and she elevated the game in such a way that it'll never be replicated again. To shoot like Steph Curry and to all the old sayings about it. I mean, it's incredible. So after the game though, I was just texting. I'm like, God dang, I didn't realize I was kind of like this. Like, I wouldn't say I was sad, but it was just kind of like a bummed out feeling. I just had this, like, I just kept seeing all the clips, she posts on her Instagram. It's like, I'll miss you. It's like the jersey and the shoes. And then, she tweets and says, she appreciates everybody and, go Hawks and all that. It's just like, damn, it's really over. So yeah, it just kind of hit me and it's like, bummed out feeling after the game.
It's like that old saying that you really want to stick by. Don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happened. And that's kind of where we need to be at because it was, once again, incredible couple years. Not many programs get to experience that. And as for us, like we're legit fans of Iowa athletics. So it was even more special. And I know along the way, we picked up, from the outside, some fans that aren't Iowa fans, but they're Caitlin Clark fans, but they followed this program because they enjoyed watching Caitlin Clark. But yeah, so before we end this here, let's kind of talk about the future kind of Iowa women's basketball, and then maybe just even a little bit of like Caitlin Clark and WNBA. But yeah, for Iowa women, obviously next year you bring back kind of the 2 main pieces in Sydney, Falter and Hannah Stolke. Those are kind of your main 2. And then outside of that, it's a bunch of girls like Taylor McCabe, Kylie, Fierbach, like players that came off the bench. Can they step up? I'm sure they're going to get way bigger roles. You bring in a pretty decent recruiting class. Now, we got to have to wait a little bit. 2025 is a really good recruiting class. 2024 is not a bad one, though. We bring in a 6'4" freshman out of Oregon. I think it is. I think she's from Oregon. Ava Hayden. But yeah, 6'4", that's awesome. We bring in a guard from Illinois and then 2 players from Wisconsin. Now the problem is like these are freshmen, so it's like,
right?
Are they going to be able to translate that freshman year? 6'4", that's amazing, but will she be able to kind of take a big role next year for us. I don't know. So it's going to
Yeah.
be very interesting. We just kind of almost have to bridge the gap between now and 2025 when we bring in Addison Deal and then Journey Houston, both really, really good players. You have 5-star and a 4-star, and we're still not done with the 2025 class. You know, we're still trying to look for more. And then you think like 2026, if we can get Greenway, right? So we kind of have to bridge that gap. Next year, like I said, might be a little bit of a down year, but I trust Lisa Bluter. I trust the coaching staff that they will figure some things out. And I think this team can still be pretty good. Now, we still have, as of right now, 1 scholarship open. Now, if someone transfers, we might have 2 or 3, but right now, for sure, 1. So we need to go out and we need to get a transfer portal player, whether it's a guard, whether it's someone down low. Yeah. For me, I'm thinking more, I'm really relying on that 6'4" to come in and maybe do good. I don't know. I'm kind of like, okay, do we need, would I rather have more of a down low person, or would I rather have a guard play? It just kind of all depends on if Kylie and McCabe can take that next step.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, you know, originally I would say a center, but I agree with you. It's almost like you lose so much production at the guard spot this year with Caitlin Clark, Kate Martin,
and Gabbie.
And Gabbie. I was blanking out there. It's like, man, you might need a guard, seriously. And, you know, Molly Davis is done, I believe. Is she done?
Yeah, she's done.
Did she come back? Okay.
Nope, she's done.
So yeah, you're losing so much production there. And I would say a guard if you can. I think we got to try to utilize the transfer portal this year, unlike last year. We didn't really do anything in the portal, which, you know, you could make an argument at the end, maybe bit us a little bit, not having a real legit post player that can play both ways down low.
Definitely did.
But you know what? To even get to that spot is like we said, it's incredible. So I would agree, though. I think we definitely got to try to be more active in the transfer portal this year. It's a big piece of the future of college athletics, and you know you gotta capitalize on it.
I do think I really want Stolke to get to where I think is better at, and that's the 4 position.
Yeah.
That's why it's like, for me, like, okay, Wood maybe going out against center, but once again, we get it. We get the 6'4" freshman in. Can she be productive right away? And if she could, that would be huge. Addison O'Grady, for me, like, I know we talked about her last week. She had a really good defensive game against LSU, but she's just not very consistent. And I don't know if she'll ever get to that point where she could be a starter, right? I just don't think so.
And I don't think she's much of an offensive threat.
No, she's not.
She's not. So, yeah.
So, yeah, it's just going to be interesting. And like I said just before, it's going to be interesting to see the fan support. It's going to be interesting to see Carver Hawkeye come next year.
Right.
Like I said, I think a lot of people are still going to support. I don't think they're going to be sellouts.
No.
I would be very surprised. Maybe there'll be a few games. There might be. But I still do think that there's going to be a lot of support for this team. And I know I'm going to keep watching. I don't know how much. I know you kind of talked about it. Like, it's still going to be one of those things where I'll still watch them, maybe not to the extent that I watched them this year, but I'll definitely still tune in. I'll definitely still follow them because they deserve it, right? Lisa Bluter. Yeah. I remember those iClubs in Arcadia, your hometown, when Kirk Ferentz would come and stuff like that. I remember Lisa Bluter would be there. And this was back in the day where women's basketball would I could care less. And so every time she talked up there, it's just like, well, I could care less. And I know that sounds really bad, but I think most people were probably in the same boat as me. Yeah. Now it's like if I went to that, I would love to listen to Lisa Bluter because I think she deserves it. She deserves everything that has kind of gone her way. She's a class act coach. And the program, and that's why for me, I'm going to keep following because of that reason, because of what they laid, the groundwork that they laid. So, and then one last thing before we hop off, Caitlin Clark, WNBA. Man, this last couple of days kind of sounds like some players that are a little jealous in WNBA are not are trying to make it hard for her or something. I don't know. I don't understand that at all.
Listen, real quick, if the women are really trying to grow the game, they shouldn't be shitting on each other.
So
you're
petty.
Literally, it's so backwards, what you're doing. You realize, somebody is saying, you realize when you go up against Caitlin Clark, all the eyes are going to be on that game because of Caitlin Clark, but then they're going to notice you as well if you ball
Ex-
out too. Like
exactly.
it helps you. So
Yep.
it's a jealousy thing. It's a we didn't get the attention and she did. Why all of a sudden it's her?
Yep.
It's a combination of a bunch of things that I don't really want to get into, but I just think it's it's better that she, is bringing all this attention to women's sports because, like I said, this is maybe the greatest 2-year run of like people tuning into women's basketball that has ever happened by far. You see
Yeah.
the numbers. Every
Yep.
game is breaking records. I'm curious to see what this national championship brought.
I really think it's going to be close to 20 million. That
Yeah.
it was on ABC, the last game with Caitlin
Yeah.
Clark. I really think it's going to be around 20 million. But yeah, no, like WNBA, I don't think there's going to be quite the following like it was like in college, but it's still going to like
No.
people are still going to tune in.
Yeah.
And like, especially like come like maybe like playoff time when like all the games are on ABC, ESPN. And if like the Indiana Fever do make the playoffs, which, if you have Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, like you would think that they probably should. I think there's 12 teams in WNBA, and I
I think
think
so.
I
Yeah.
think 8 end up going. I think is
Yeah.
what I remember reading, but I could be wrong on that. But yeah, it's gonna be definitely interesting. Like for me, like yeah, I mean, if there's a WNBA game on and it's Indiana Fever, like I will watch it. I don't know how invested I will be, but I'm definitely gonna follow Caitlin Clark's journey.
For
But I do
sure.
think it is BS that you got these players that are it's simply just jealousy. But at the same time, it's like you have to realize that like this is just going to help you. It's going to help the league. I don't really get it. I mean, so like for example, like if you're playing Caitlin Clark like at home, like it's going to be a big crowd. How do you not like that? It just comes down to
Your
jealousy at
own
that
home
point.
crowd will be packed for that game
Yes.
when she's there on the road, not just like all of her home games, but your home games will be too. Like, and you're already seeing it. Like, I think the Las Vegas Aces already like moved their game against the Indiana
Who?
Fever to a more bigger stadium
Yep, I
because
did
they
see
know
that.
that it's so much.
Yeah,
You're
it's
gonna make
such a
more
joke.
money. You're gonna get more attention. It's good
Yep.
for the game. I don't
Man,
get it.
like I think I think it still was the right decision for Caitlin Clark. But gosh, I wish she was
I
coming back for
know
one more year.
the
I
fact
told
that
you
she could though is crazy.
it is. And I
Dude,
told you
how many points? She probably how many points she have? 3,000 some. She might be
yes,
pushing 5,000 points if she came
if she came
back.
back. Yeah. I think I told you this last night. I said I really think deep down that if Kate Martin and Gabbie had one more year left, like let's say they were still one more year of eligibility, I think it would have been a tougher decision for Clark, and I think ultimately she would have came back for another year. I just think like I'm not saying that was like the full reason, but I think if those two were coming back one more year, I think you have something to really build
Oh,
with. And I do
for
think like
sure.
Clark would probably be like, yeah, those are two of my
And
like better friends. I've been with them my whole career. So
especially with not winning the championship 2 years in a row, I mean, to go at it a third time, I mean,
yeah,
that's just extra incentive too there. So
yep.
you're right. I think it would have been a tougher decision if she had the girls that came in with her, uh, there another year as well.
For one more
So
year. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that will do it for this episode. The title of this episode is going to be Thank You, Caitlin Clark in the Iowa Women's Basketball Program, because it is like, thank you so much for bringing joy these last few years. Thank you for everything. It's just been an incredible couple-year run. It was so much fun to watch. I know we keep saying it, but
oh yeah.
um, it it's just something that like I'll always remember, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. We'll remember this era, and it'll be with us forever. So thank you for
Also,
that.
and really quick, Don Staley, at the end of the
Oh,
game,
yes. I'm glad you brought that up.
she didn't have to bring up Iowa. She didn't have to bring up Caitlin Clark, and for her to take the mic back after everything was almost wrapped up and done on stage there, and to
Yep.
basically say thank you for elevating the game, and she knew how much weight was on her shoulders, and she thought she handled it with grace and whatnot, and just called her the one of the goats is awesome because obviously Don Staley as a player and a coach is probably a goat on
Yeah.
that Mount Rushmore as well too. So for her coming from her, all class, and she's the type of people that you know that you want to be listening to, unlike other players that are trying to tear her down. So
Yeah, exactly. No, that was a very class act by Don Saley. So that was awesome to hear, and I'm glad you brought that up. So, well, that will do it for this episode. We'll be back sometime soon. Probably going over Iowa football as we now turn the page over. Basketball's done with.
Drafts coming up too.
Drafts coming up. Cooper DeJean today. Pro day.
Man,
had a hell of a day. So yeah, we got some things to talk about here coming up here soon. Spring ball is right around, our spring game is right around the corner. I think 10 days from now or 12 days from now, it's on April 20th. So 420. So
hey, football's right around the corner, man. I'm pumped again.
I know it is. It's going to be here before you know it. So, well, that will do it. Thank you guys all for listening, and have a good rest of your week, and go Hawks.